The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. Chapter 7. A Memory. Did you know Hassan and you fed from the same breast? Did you know that, Amir Agha? Sakina, her name was. She was a fair blue-eyed Hazara woman from Bamiyan, and she sang you old wedding songs. They say there is a brotherhood between people who have fed from the same breast. Did you know that? A memory. A rupiah each, children, just 1 rupiah each, and I will part the curtain of truth. The old man sits against a mud wall. His sightless eyes are like molten silver embedded in deep twin craters. Hunched over his cane, the fortune teller runs a gnarled hand across the surface of his deflated cheeks. Cups sit before us. Not much to ask for the truth, is it? A rupiah each. Hassan drops a coin in the leathery palm. I drop mine too. In the name of Allah, most beneficent, most merciful, the old fortune teller whispers. He takes Hassan's hand first, strokes the palm with one horn-like fingernail, round and round, round and round. The finger then floats to Hassan's face and makes a dry, scratchy sound as it slowly traces the curve of his cheeks, the outline of his ears. The calloused pads of his fingers brush against Hassan's eyes. The hand stops there, lingers. A shadow passes across the old man's face. Hassan and I exchange a glance. The old man takes Hassan's hand and puts the rupiah back in Hassan's palm. He turns to me. How about you, young friend? He says. On the other side of the wall, a rooster crows. The old man reaches for my hand, and I withdraw it. A dream. I am lost in a snowstorm. The wind shrieks, blows stinging sheets of snow into my eyes. I stagger through layers of shifting white. I call for help, but the wind drowns my cries. I fall and lie panting on the snow, lost in the white, the wind wailing in my ears. I watch the snow erase my fresh footprints. I am a ghost now, I think, a ghost with no footprints. I cry out again, hope fading like my footprints. But this time a muffled reply. I shield my eyes and manage to sit up. Out of the swaying curtains of snow I catch a glimpse of movement, a flurry of color. A familiar shape materializes. A hand reaches out for me. I see deep parallel gashes across the palm, blood dripping, staining the snow. I take the hand and suddenly the snow is gone. We are standing in a field of apple green grass with soft wisps of clouds drifting above. I look up and see the clear sky is filled with kites, green, yellow, red, orange. They shimmer in the afternoon light. A havoc of scrap and rubble littered the alley. Worn bicycle tires, bottles with peeled labels, ripped up magazines, yellowed newspapers, all scattered amid a pile of bricks and slabs of cement. A rusted cast iron stove with a gaping hole on its side tilted against a wall. But there were two things amid the garbage that I couldn't stop looking at. One was the blue kite resting against the wall, close to the cast iron stove. The other was Hassan's brown corduroy pants thrown on a heap of eroded bricks. I don't know what he was saying. My father says it's sinful. He sounded unsure, excited, scared, all at the same time. Hassan lay with his chest pinned to the ground. Kamal and Wally each gripped an arm, twisted and bent at the elbow so that Hassan's hands were pressed to his back. Asif was standing over them, the heel of his snow boots crushing the back of Hassan's neck. Your father won't find out, Asif said, and there's nothing sinful about teaching a lesson to a disrespectful donkey. I don't know, Wally muttered. Suit yourself, Asif said. He turned to Kamal. What about you? Well, it's just a Hazara, Asif said. But Kamal kept looking away. Fine, Asif snapped. All I want you weaklings to do is hold him down. Can you manage that? Wali and Kamal nodded. They looked relieved. Asif knelt behind Hassan, put his hands on Hassan's hips and lifted his bare buttocks. He kept one hand on Hassan's back and undid his own belt buckle with his free hand. He unzipped his jeans, dropped his underwear. He positioned himself behind Hassan. Hassan didn't struggle, didn't even whimper. He moved his head slightly and I caught a glimpse of his face, saw the resignation in it. It was a look I had seen before. It was the look of the lamb. Tomorrow is the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah, the last month of the Muslim calendar, and the first of 3 days of Eid al-Adha or Eid-e-Qurban, as Afghans call it, a day to celebrate how the Prophet Ibrahim almost sacrificed his own son for God. Baba has handpicked the sheep again this year, a powder white one with crooked black ears. We all stand in the backyard, Hassan, Ali, Baba and I. The mullah recites the prayer, rubs his beard. Baba mutters, "Get on with it," under his breath. He sounds annoyed with the endless praying, the ritual of making the meat halal. Baba mocks the story behind this Eid, like he mocks everything religious. But he respects the tradition of Eid-e-Qurban. The custom is to divide the meat in thirds, one for the family, one for friends, and one for the poor. Every year Baba gives it all to the poor. The rich are fat enough already, he says. The mullah finishes the prayer. Ameen. He picks up the kitchen knife with the long blade. The custom is to not let the sheep see the knife. Ali feeds the animal a cube of sugar. Another custom to make death sweeter. The sheep kicks, but not much. The mullah grabs it under its jaw and places the blade on its neck. Just a second before he slices the throat in one expert motion, I see the sheep's eyes. It is a look that will haunt my dreams for weeks. I don't know why I watch this yearly ritual in our backyard. My nightmares persist long after the bloodstains on the grass have faded. But I always watch. I watch because of that look of acceptance in the animal's eyes. Absurdly, I imagine the animal understands. I imagine the animal sees that its imminent demise is for a higher purpose. This is the look. I stopped watching, turned away from the alley. Something warm was running down my wrist. I blinked, saw I was still biting down on my feast, hard enough to draw blood from the knuckles. I realized something else. I was weeping. From just around the corner I could hear of Asif's quick rhythmic grunts. I had one last chance to make a decision, one final opportunity to decide who I was going to be. I could step into that alley, stand up for Hassan the way he had stood up for me all those times in the past, and accept whatever would happen to me, or I could run. In the end, I ran. I ran because I was a coward. I was afraid of Asif and what he would do to me. I was afraid of getting hurt. That's what I told myself as I turned my back to the alley, to Hassan. That's what I made myself believe. I actually aspired to cowardice because the alternative, the real reason I was running was that Asif was right. Nothing was free in this world. Maybe Hassan was the price I had to pay, the lamb I had to slay to win Baba. Was it a fair price? The answer floated to my conscious mind before I could thwart it. He was just a Hazara, wasn't he? I ran back the way I had come, ran back to the all but deserted bazaar. I lurched to a cubicle and leaned against the padlocked swinging doors. I stood there panting, sweating, wishing things had turned out some other way. About 15 minutes later, I heard voices and running footfalls. I crouched behind the cubicle and watched Asif and the other two sprinting by, laughing as they hurried down the deserted lane. I forced myself to wait 10 more minutes. Then I walked back to the rutted track that ran along the snow-filled ravine. I squinted in the dimming light and spotted Hassan walking slowly toward me. I met him by a leafless birch tree on the edge of the ravine. He had the blue kite in his hands. That was the first thing I saw. And I can't lie now and say my eyes didn't scan it for any rips. His chapan had mud smudges down the front and his shirt was ripped just below the collar. He stopped, swayed on his feet like he was going to collapse. Then he steadied himself, handed me the kite. "Where were you? I looked for you," I said, Speaking those words was like chewing on a rock. Hassan dragged a sleeve across his face, wiped snot and tears. I waited for him to say something, but we just stood there in silence, in the fading light. I was grateful for the early evening shadows that fell on Hassan's face and concealed mine. I was glad I didn't have to return his gaze. Did he know I knew? And if he knew, then what would I see if I did look in his eyes? Blame? Indignation? Or God forbid, what I feared most, guileless devotion? That most of all, I couldn't bear to see. He began to say something and his voice cracked. He closed his mouth, opened it and closed it again. Took a step back, wiped his face, and that was as close as Hassan and I ever came to discussing what had happened in the alley. I thought he might burst into tears, but to my relief he didn't, and I pretended I hadn't heard the crack in his voice. Just like I pretended I hadn't seen the dark stain in the seat of his pants, or those tiny drops that fell from between his legs and stained the snow black. Agha Sahib will worry, was all he said. He turned from me and limped away. It happened just the way I had imagined. I opened the door to the smoky study and stepped in. Baba and Rahim Khan were drinking tea and listening to the news crackling on the radio. Their heads turned. Then a smile played on my father's lips. He opened his arms. I put the kite down and walked into his thick, hairy arms. I buried my face in the warmth of his chest and wept. Baba held me close to him, rocking me back and forth. In his arms, I forgot what I had done, and that was good.